Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome into the Eagles Call. Everybody will be joining us here momentarily, but we're going to have another wonderful Monday conversation with a couple of our Eagles who are making things happen. So Phyllis Estevan, listen to me, Phyllis Jenkins and Montoya Estevan are
Montoya.
joining us today with their stories about what they're doing with their businesses. So great time to be planning for next year, obviously, right here at the end of the year. And we're thrilled to have them on to tell their stories and know it'll inspire all of the rest of you as you're building your own stories. And a lot of you will be asking to come on next year as well to share your stories here with us. So, Ashley, Sheila, what's going on in your lives these days?
All right, I'm doing well and enjoying time in Florida and having a Christmas unlike the Christmases of the past 5 years. So for the first time in 5 years, actually being in a stationary house for Christmas and not in an RV in some random location. So this has been a very different experience this year. It's been a lot of fun, and we've really enjoyed it with the girls, and they are beside themselves with excitement for some of the gifts that we have created and done for each other and for other family members. It's been really fun to see, especially Juliet, our youngest, her excitement of, I don't even know the things that she has wrapped under the tree for the family, but she's really, really excited.
Well, she's reached out to other family members, trust me,
Yes.
to help her with her planning. And yeah, she is so excited. She texts back and forth and gives us video messages about
Right.
all the good things she has planned.
Yes. All right. Well, let me get into some announcements real quick, and then we can turn it over so you can talk with Phyllis and Estevan, because I am so excited to hear their stories. Last week was so fun just hearing two very different stories, very different experiences from Eagles. And so we are excited to do that again this week and to share more of stories of Eagles just like you who have come in and done great things. And I love that, yeah, although the stories are very different, the mindset of an Eagle is there, and that's that common ground that we can all be there together with that right network, right mindset, and right ideas. So before we dive into that, just some quick announcements here. Of course, one is just the regular reminder, make sure that in the chat, we would love to hear from you, love to hear where you're from, any takeaways, anything that stands out in the conversation, and any questions that you have. And the best way to do this is make sure that the little blue drop down says everyone and not just panelists and attendees, and that way we can all see what it is that you're writing as well. Sheila and I will be looking in the chat and making sure we pull any questions over to make sure that Dad sees those for Estevan and Phyllis as well. Now, as far as other things that are coming on this week, we have office hours tomorrow. I'm excited about this one. It is an entrepreneurial families panel. So it is going to be, I will be on this call, but also Yvette Davis, Nick Pavlidis, and Ryan Stoyer are going to be on the call. Now, I have, of course, gotten the pleasure of getting to know Yvette through the Eagles community. I know Nick from even beyond here with Dad's Mastermind, and I know Ryan from the Coaching Mastery program as well. So these are all Eagles that I'm thrilled to have us all together, because we have kids of different ages, kids of different interests, but definitely entrepreneurial families. So I invite you to be a part of the office hours. And if you have kids around, you want to have kids sit in on that call with you, ask questions, I welcome it. And I am sure that my kids will be within earshot. If I need to grab a husband or child as a part of the office hours conversation, I'll do it in a heartbeat. So it's a family event for entrepreneurial families, and we invite any of you to join us for that tomorrow from 7 to 8 Central. And the Zoom link discussion link will be put in the chat now by Sheila. All right.
I'll have to share pictures of what happened here on Saturday when your three little girls were busy as beavers stuffing Christmas cards to go out to all the Eagles. Those are now at the post office and on their way. But they had a little assembly line that they set up where one would fold the card, one would put a little insert in there, put it in the envelope, another one to put a stamp on, and another one to seal it. And then part of the process too was to stamp on the outside a Merry Christmas stamp. So several steps, and your little girls coordinated that and worked like busy beavers.
Oh, and they had a blast doing it and so loved it. And I remember doing that as a kid. And back then when we had so much snail mail and marketing through all of the paper mail that we were sending out, my goodness, the times that we had assembly lines of folding all of our papers and having the whole family and all of the friends and everybody else that was coming and having a big party out of it. So did they negotiate their pay as well as what Sheila said? You know, they did. And yes, they did get paid for it too. They did. And they are master negotiators. They are definitely entrepreneurs at heart. So we'll carry on more of that conversation tomorrow night in the Tuesday call. So please join us in there. Also this week, the Eagles hotline is being answered by Angela Chatham. Remember, this is a benefit of your membership, and it gives you an opportunity to call and talk with an Eagle or a coach anytime between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Now, for Angela, she is a professional development and leadership coach. She helps faith-filled entrepreneurs and professionals gain clarity, focus, and confidence. And she empowers them to create a winning mindset, self-leadership, and map out an action plan to help them achieve their goals and dreams so they can boldly leave and succeed in life and business. We try to get a little bit more info for these people that are leading the hotline to share a little bit about who they are. The reasons for calling the hotline are oftentimes for looking for, I can't find something, or I don't know about a certain resource. Can you point me in the right direction? Or I don't know if I need a coach. Can you help determine if I do or what the next steps are? Or I'm stuck in this one thing. Do you know of a system? Do you know of a program that may help me here? These are all great opportunities for calling into the hotline. So we asked for a little bit more. We asked Angela just a little bit more insight about anything that was important for her. And she wanted to share one of her favorite quotes is blessed to be a blessing. She says, this scripture has always spoken to me. I believe what I receive is not just meant for me, but to give and share. This pertains to my gifts, talents, money, time, etc. I like to always remember that I'm here to make an impact in other people's lives. It's not just about achieving and getting. And let that be your reminder. As we got Eagles feedback for the hotline, we got a lot of people that said they love the hotline and they really want to keep it and they benefited from it. We have seen that people who call the hotline tend to stay on as an Eagle because they better understand how to use it, how to get the most out of their Eagles membership. And they also feel more connected because they've actually talked to a real Eagle in person. So recognize this is not an imposition or a pain for our Eagles that volunteer for the hotline. They're doing it because they willingly are giving their time to give back in this way, because they believe in this in the Eagles community, and they also love what they're doing, and they believe it so much that they are blessed to be a blessing, and they love doing it for that. So I invite you to give that call to the Eagles hotline, and if anything, just get to know another Eagle. Next up, our Monday mentor call next week is going to be on December 20th. Melissa Goff is going to be diving into chapter 14 of our Think and Grow Rich book study, The Sixth Sense. Sheila's going to post a link in Mighty Networks in the chat so you can RSVP there and get reminders on that. And just as a reminder, if you want to get all of the Think and Grow Rich info, the replays and study guides in Mighty Networks, there is a link in the chat that Sheila's putting now where you can get all of that information. All right, so now I want to go into our last things here. One of them is the fact that we are almost at Christmas, and like I talked about Juliet earlier, it's gift giving time. So what are some opportunities for you? You have some unique gift ideas just here within the Eagles community. Number one is supporting your fellow Eagle artists. We have a post for Eagle artists to share their products, so fellow Eagles can purchase unique gifts from them. You can get a unique, beautiful gift. Not only that, you get to tell the backstory of how you might know this person and know an Eagle. I told you all last week that I already have invested in some things with Madeline Hanlon's art and with Paul Joy's greeting cards. And if you'll notice on that post, I posted some things that my entrepreneurial child, Clara, is selling for Christmas. Use those as an opportunity as an example. If you're going to be on that entrepreneurial kids call tomorrow, maybe that entrepreneurial kid is ready to put their information up and be a co-eagle along with you. And we celebrate that and we want to honor that. This is for Eagles and for Eagles children. So we allow that to be a part of it. We always encourage the next generation for sure. So or you can do that, support your fellow Eagles artists. Second off, you can gift someone an Eagles membership. You actually can gift them 2 months of Eagles membership. And this is a one-time payment and there's no obligation to continue. So you can literally give them 2 months with no extra obligation beyond that. So we'll send you a single-use coupon with an explanation of the gift you're giving and how they can redeem it. Then you can print that out, wrap it up if you like, stick it under the Christmas tree. I know for our kids, they love to hide envelopes and light gifts in the Christmas tree for extra hiding and discovery, especially if we miss one. So we'll find it when we're taking the tree down. So then after 60 days, so you can print it up, wrap it up, and then after 60 days, we'll give the person you gifted the membership to an opportunity to join us on an ongoing basis if they would like. So this is a great opportunity to give somebody a no obligation chance to just get a feel for what the Eagles community is all about and determine if they want to then take the initiative and invest in this for their own development moving forward. And then 3 is a special message on a mug or t-shirt. We now have special Eagles gifts for purchase for yourselves or for others, where we have key quotes and Eagles messages on them. So this is a gift that can definitely encourage and inspire. Dad's highlighted a few of these. Now, of course, I encourage these for Eagles. The really cool blue poster that's down on the bottom shelf of Dad's desk behind him is one of those things on the Eagles swag that we have, as well as the third shelf up, the canvas print there. So right there, you see 2 beautiful things for your own home office that definitely identify you as an Eagle. Anybody with those in those background, we know they're Eagles. So that's a pretty cool way to be associated with the Eagles. All right, our last 2 things here. We have a 2022 Eagles book study. We're gearing up for this in the Eagles community. And instead of doing what we did this year, where we went through 1 book over the whole year, we are actually going to do 1 book every month next year. We are really excited about doing this, and we want this to be a group effort. So we want to hear from any of you Eagles who have already read the book and have takeaways to share so that we can have you help us with this and be a part of the conversation. We have found some Eagles who have led mastermind groups already through some of these books. So Sheila is going to put a list of these in the chat. Please share in the chat if you have any experience with them and would like to share during the book study. What we are doing right now is compiling those people who have read the book, who are excited about sharing some insights to go along and talk with Dad on it when we get to those.
Right there, the 12 books. I got them all lined up together, easy access. Those are the 12 we're going to be going through next year.
Awesome. All right. And the last thing is I just want to give a shout out. Again, I am loving these shout out opportunities to celebrate people with their wins, whether big or small. We want to celebrate along with you. So today we want to give a special shout out this week to Pat Mingarelli. He recently submitted several photography teaching applications, and he's already heard back from OutSchool and will begin teaching classes for them. So way to go, Pat. That is awesome. First off, we love seeing you taking action towards your goals. I'm thrilled you're doing OutSchool. I know that I personally I have 2 links pulled up right now for my own kids to take. And I know in the homeschooling community, OutSchool is a biggie, and it is a very robust program. So congratulations for doing that. Sometimes instead of trying to invent the wheel, collaborating and linking arms with a system, a program that's already set up can be such a great way to do it. So we are excited for you and eager to hear more as you progress. And with that, let's turn it over to the Eagles, who are the center of attention for today, and learn more about their stories.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ashley. Yes, I love hearing those stories about what everybody else is doing. And we're going to add to that today. Again, thank you so much, Estevan and Phyllis, for spending time with us here today.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you 2 share so much in common in terms of the motivation for what you're doing. And I love this. We didn't plan this specifically for you two, but it's such a common theme in the Eagles where people have a heart for ministry, a heart for service. And you two are great examples of just extending that, but turning it into something where you also have income potential so you can continue to bless other people. So we're going to have fun talking about ways that you've done that. We have no particular order, but I think I'll start with Estevan. We'll talk about your story, and then Phyllis will come back to your story and show examples from both of you, things that you're doing. So Estevan, golly, what a delight. I've referred to you so many times in the Eagles community because of the business that you're doing. Now you're doing a lot of things. So tell people about your family and some of the things you're doing. Then as you know, we're going to zero in on at least one of the things you're doing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I'm a pastor, full-time in the ministry. I have, my wife, I have 3 kids, 2 teenage girls and a little boy. He's 7 years old. And we were both from the city. I grew up in Albuquerque, which, is a lot bigger than the town that I used to pastor in. My wife grew up in Long Beach, and we just felt God called us to Taos, and it's a small mountain town in northern New Mexico, and planted a church out there, and kind of always been bivocational. And so, my family is along the journey with me, and just always had to do something on the side to keep things going because we planted a church from scratch and had some kind of financial support. But I just always felt that I wanted to have a business. Paul was a tent maker, and I don't want to have to depend on churches to feed our family. And so I've always had to work and do things and enjoy doing it while pastoring. So I've been bivocational. My wife, she's been along the journey with us, and our kids, they like, that we're able to do stuff like this and have a lot of freedom with what we do.
All right. Now, I love how you set that up because being bivocational like that. So the goal is to grow things that you're doing that as profitable ventures so you can pastor with the freedom of speaking to people who need it most, but not necessarily to just make the church so big that then you don't have to do anything else to generate income, right?
Yes, yes, we want some freedom there with that. And I've seen some churches where the pastors, they God uses them to build a big ministry, but then they can't do anything outside of that. And it's, it's one way they end up enslaved to it. And I think there should be some freedom in that as well. And at the same time, having a business, we don't have to depend on the church as much. So we end up being able to be more free because we have our own means as well.
Wow, there's so many principles. We could stop right there and just park on that all day. Of course, I grew up Mennonite, where
Yes,
my
sir.
dad was a pastor, but certainly bivocational. They use very much Paul's model of tent making, where you aren't paid for what you do in ministry. You provide a living some other way. My dad was a farmer. You've done some other things. So tell us some of the things that you've done along the way to create income for your family while you continue to pastor a church.
Yes, and so it's kind of an interesting story, but whenever God called me to preach, I felt I was giving up everything I enjoyed to be a preacher, and I thought I was going to go to Africa and just give everything up. And one of the things was my mom worked for the University of New Mexico, and I'd already had a plan to go to college there for a computer science degree or graphic design. So when I said I'm going to surrender to ministry, I gave that up and went to Bible college when I graduated. And I ended up going to a college where they use technology in the ministry. And I realized that you can use these things, but it was somewhat of an idol in my life. I had to make sure things were right, but ended up, it seemed like God turned around and gave it right back to me. And so I've done graphic design work for churches, freelance work for years, made websites, gospel tracts, and ended up, doing some working for a company and things like that. So that's something that I've always done on the side, is just freelance design work, and in particular with churches, making websites and tracts, and been able to print almost 1 million gospel tracts for churches in the country. Plus I've made the files and given them to missionaries across the seas, and just gave them the files and they print in their own language and that kind of thing. So it's been a blessing to have that. And that's kind of been my main thing that I've done to feed the family, is that freelance work, and kind of stumbled into the fishing rod thing, but it's mainly been design. And then there's been different members in our church that, they'd offer me work, and I'd be out there from cutting weeds to doing fiber optic and telephone poles in the mountains and all kinds of stuff. And I loved every bit of it, by the way, because I love the mountains. I'd be out there and I'd see elk and deer and bobcats and everything, and get paid to be in the mountains. I loved it, and so it was good when we were there. We're in Albuquerque now, back, but those are some of the things I've done.
Okay. And along the way, you mentioned in your notes that you sometimes would fish really as provision of food for your family.
Yes, and see, we lived in the mountains, and it was we got into hunting and fishing. I didn't grow up doing that, but there came a point where we did struggle, and I would have to provide through the land itself. And that's where I really began to learn how to fish. And it became, I need to get this skill down because I need to take back my limit and that kind of stuff. And so that's where really I got started with the fishing. Eventually what happened is this: we're in Taos, and Taos is a very tourist town. There's a lot of ski slopes around the area. A lot of people from Texas and Oklahoma come to Taos, and Red River, these little mountain towns out there. Eagle Nest, that's actually one of the names of the towns out there. The Eagle Nest and Angel Fire. And so they would come and stay, and we would have these visiting pastors that would come to our church during their off time. And they would say, hey, do you know any fishing spots? Can you take us out fishing? It was usually on Saturday, and typical pastor's day off is Monday. So I said, yeah, sure, come on, let's go fishing tomorrow. And we'd end up going fishing. And so I'd take out several pastors every summer, about 10, 15 different pastors and their family, and kind of like guide them somewhat. They'd, pay for my gas and get a meal and that kind of stuff. And we'd go out there and fish. And I stumbled upon this style of fishing, is tenkara, because there's traditional spin fishing, and then there's, fly fishing. But this was a whole different style, but it's still very similar. You use the same type of lures, but the rods themselves don't have a reel on them. And I liked that because it's a real stealth type of fishing for the native trout that we're catching out there. And so I bought a rod like that. And every time I took someone out, they liked the rod, and I tell them where I bought it. And then they'd go to that fly shop and buy one of the rods. And so that's how I ended up, I sold probably about 10 rods for another company before I realized, hey, I think I could do this myself.
Golly, I can't help but put up your site there. I want people to see that. A fishing rod with no reel on it, unique kind of fishing. But here you are, started out. I love the progression of how you lay out this idea. You started out fishing just to provide food for your family. You discovered that you enjoyed it. You discovered people who were not used to that saw it as a hobby, a novelty, and a reason to get out in the mountains and in the streams. You started teaching them how to do it. And in that, you saw an opportunity to actually have this rod available. So tell us about this, the rod, why it is so unique. First, tell us also how you chose the name tenkara.
So tenkara is the actual style from Japan, and it literally means in Japanese, from heaven. And I think that's unique being a pastor. I thought that's kind of funny. And the way the flies, they land on the water like a bug would land on the water. If you cast it right, it looks just like a little bug just dropping on the water, and the fish don't even know you're there. It's a 12-foot rod, so you're very far from them, so they don't see you or your shadow. So you could, really, deceive the fish in that way, but it lands on the water real, and you do it right, real delicately. And so that's what that stands for. And, it's based in the Rockies, because New Mexico, a lot of people don't realize this, but the southern chain of the Rockies ends in New Mexico. And so we, have Rocky Mountain, the cutthroat trout, that's kind of a prize trout that's out there, and a few other types there. But yeah, that's what that stands for.
Okay. Now, what's the significance then, not having I'm not a fisherman, so I don't know. Does all fly fishing not have a rod? Do you just not have a reel? Do you just use the rod for casting?
So fly fishing itself has a rod, and you actually have to use your line and your weight to get it far. The line itself is weighted kind of to cast, but with this, it's meant to just be super simple. And so all other type of fishing besides this and cane pole fishing don't have rods. And so this one doesn't have a rod. And the unique thing about this, it's like I said, it's 12 feet. So you have your 12-foot rod, and then you have a 10 to 12 foot leader line, and then from there you actually tie on your basic fishing line with your flies on that's real light and delicate. So it presents itself like an actual fly landing on the water. And the unique thing about our rods, in particular, this one that I sell, it's what they call a mid-flex. And so half the rod stays stiff and the other half bends. And so you'll see someone fishing and the rod looks almost like a candy cane when you're holding your pole there and the fish are going, and the way the rod extends and goes back and forth, it wears down the fish for you without needing to let the fish run and then reel it back in and run and reel it back in. And so it goes back and forth. So it fights the fish for you, but on top of that, you feel all the fight of the fish. And so it creates a rush for people, which on another note has been very helpful for pastors. And I say that because I've taken a lot of pastors out. And one time I had a retired pastor with me who's an avid fly fisher. And he said, the reason I love fly fishing so much is because when you're out in the mountains, you're away from cell phone signal for one, and you're so focused on that little fly for a fish to jump up and get it, that all the cares of the ministry and all the problems you're dealing with back home are just gone because you're so focused on that moment. And so it's been just a blessing to be able to help pastors with this as well. So this type of fishing is very, you have to stay really focused, but it helps people. It's very therapeutic, if you would, just because you're so focused on what you're doing.
Wow. I know nothing about fishing. You just sold me. There's so many metaphors in how you describe that. I mean, that's beautiful. Wow. So you've got a couple different kind of rods here. I want to show people this and then we'll go back to just talking, but you've got some beautifully done videos on here that show the simplicity, describe what you just told us there. The rod breaks down into a small size so you can transport it easily, apparently.
Mhm. Yes, it's real light, and I have one of the rods here. It comes in a case like this. You can see where's the logo right there. And
Yeah.
so they're real light. It breaks down to about this big. And if you have your vest or even just a little pocket pouch, you could have all your lures in there and your line. And you could literally, less than like 5 pounds, you have everything you need. And the significance about this rod, one time we went up in a backcountry hike. It was about 6 miles, 11,000 feet kind of hike to these alpine lakes. And I had friends that took their whole fishing rig up there, and it was so much for them to lug that around. The poles were long, and mine just fit right in my backpack with everything else and didn't add much to it, and just was able to get up there and hike with it and go fish in the alpine lakes.
Oh, all right. Now, obviously there's some sophisticated manufacturing here. We assume you aren't doing these in your garage. How do you handle the manufacturing and product fulfillment?
So right now we get orders through Alibaba. You probably heard of that site.
Yeah.
It's you can connect with distributors and manufacturers throughout the world. And I connected with a company that produces the rods for several of the mainline competitors that I have, and was able to get my rod made through them. And so when it's all said and done, a kit cost me about $45. That's including the flies, the line, the boxing, everything. And then I sell them for the marked up price there. And I'm still underpriced compared to my competitors. And I started off lower, and I'm building my price up every batch I get in. So I order them in batches of like 100. And then as I start selling out and I have about 20 left, I'll order another batch. And right now I have 2 other people that are investing with me, both pastors, by the way, and entrepreneurs, and they're helping fund the next order, which we're going to do an order. Really, our goal is to do an order of 1,000. So we're doing 200, and then we're going to do another 200, and then the 600, and try to get those into the stores. One of the pastors, he knows a person who is high up in a pretty large chain for outdoor stores, and we're gonna we sent him a rod, but right now trout season's kind of out, so we're gonna try to get into the stores next spring and summer is our goal.
Okay.
And so everything right now comes to me, and I fulfill the orders though through my website. I have it all. They manufacture everything, but I put together the fly boxes and everything like that. And I have someone in Kenya that ties my flies for me also, because I used to tie my own flies. But just to give you an idea, if you go to a fly store, one hook, one fly costs anywhere between $2 and $4, and I can get a dozen flies for $3.50 from this individual. and I have to order a minimum of like 10 dozen, then I have to pay for the shipping, which is like $40, which isn't much. It ends up being like $3.90 a dozen, which is what you pay for one fly, and I get 12 flies for that. And
Whoa.
so I get all that wholesale pricing, and the man happens to be a member of a church out there from a missionary that, is connected somewhat to our ministry. And so it's kind of neat to be able to help this guy. He's feeding his family and all that. And it works out. It's pretty neat how it all came together.
Wow. Again, the lessons in here are just astounding. Of course, Jesus connected a lot with fishermen and
Yes,
talking
sir.
about us being fishers of men. And you are that, but you're also teaching people to fish for fish. But I love those connections. Yeah, using somebody who's connected with your church ministry to actually create the flies for you. So you've got the manufacturing handled, and you've described the concept that it cuts your cost dramatically to order in larger incremental numbers. And for that, you've got some outside investors that are helping you increase the quantity orders, get your costs down. A lot of pieces moving here. One thing I know people are wanting to know, and that is, how are you marketing this then?
So, and I see on there, they asked where my website was made, and I'll get into that marketing. It's a WordPress website, and I use the Divi theme for that. I've done a lot of web design stuff, so I did that. And what we do is, we used to be wedding photographers also on the side. And so we have the equipment to go out and take pictures. And so my wife goes with me, and she'll take pictures with me, and I have her and waiters, and we're out there taking pictures and all that kind of stuff, and recording on our phones, because our phones are capable of 4K video, and we put all that stuff together. And basically it's been through social media, and from social media to word of mouth is how it works from there. And through that social media, I was able to get into several fly shops in New Mexico, and so I have several stores that are selling my products already, just specifically for fly fishing. And then I sell online. I did Facebook Marketplace for a little bit as well. That kind of got my first orders through. And because when I first did this, we actually got a tax refund, and that's what I used to buy my first batch. And then from there, ever since then, the rods have been paying for themselves to continue to order more until now this larger one there. But everything's been just word of mouth, and then social media is how it's been. And I haven't paid for any kind of advertisement. I need to start doing that, but I haven't yet, just because I'm waiting for this next batch of 200 to come in, and they should be in here about mid-January is what we're looking at.
What's the lag time in ordering a quantity like that and receiving them?
So right now it's slowed down. It used to be 3 months, but in the last year and a half, with everything that's happened that the whole world has felt, it's put it to 4 to 6 months now. And so and I contacted several people within the states that manufacture rods, and all of them, they manufacture, but the issue is they get the raw material from China. And so it's hard for them it takes them just as long to get the raw material, and then they'd have to also manufacture. So I just continue to order from China, because it would make it 6 to 8 months if I did it the other way here stateside right now.
All right. Those are all great components of how you build a business. I mean, obviously you've done a lot of research and have this all figured out, all those different components. And that's what it takes, is just putting all those things together. What a delightful business. Now, so we're just ready to roll into a new year. I mean, what are your goals for this business? And we know you're doing other things as well, but for this business alone, what would you like to accomplish in 2022?
My goal would be, if we could consistently sell between 50 to 75 rod kits per month, there's a profit there quite a bit. I could pull out the calculator real quick, but between 50 and 75 rods per month, that would, we'd be completely set with that as far as how much we'd bring in. It'd be quite a bit there, about $5,000 a month just on that. And my goal is either to do it that way through our website. I want to keep that aspect open, that they could order through my website, but also my goal is to get rods into manufacturers, into stores. Now, you know how it is with the store. We have the retail price, and usually you take out 30%, and that's where they buy it at wholesale. So it would cut into some of my profit. But the thing that I see about that is they're doing the warehousing, they're doing the marketing. And in our boxes, what we're going to do is have an insert where we're going to have, Tenkara School, something like that, where when they buy a rod, they go to our website and it teaches them how to set up the rod, how to use the rod, how to fish different types of streams and so forth. So we get them, even though they're buying it from a manufacturer, they're coming back to our site and they get free access to all this training just by creating an account. So I get their email address and can continue to market to them from that point further. But the stores are doing the warehousing, the distribution, putting it in their own sale ads and everything else. And I want to leverage the big boxes rather than having to just operate out of my garage.
Yeah. Wow. That makes a lot of sense. You increase the quantity dramatically, even though you reduce your profit. But as you described, your margins are about $45 in cost. You're selling them for $130, $140. Reduce that even by 30%. You're still doubling your cost, which if you're doing that in quantity without having to do the product fulfillment and marketing yourself, that's a great model.
So that's our goal. And then we just make one really good video a month out on the rivers. And one of the goals too is to get to every state in the Rocky Mountain chain and fish whatever major river there is, and then be able to feature that video like a 5 to 10 minute long high action fishing video and with my rods there.
One of the things, and I know we're going to move to Phyllis here. We could go on forever, and I love this story. But one of the things that we see a lot in these high-end products is that this is not a one-time transaction. Sometimes when we're in products, you have a one-time transaction and people would never need it again. But we know in this arena, people who are avid golfers, tennis players, or whatever, they want the latest, greatest. They want the next edition. I had somebody send me a real high-end top. It's called Forever Spin, and it's really fascinating to get it going. But I get every week from them new versions, new models, new colors, new metal components and all for additional kind of tops that I may want to purchase. So I think you're really onto something here to continue to get. I love the way you describe getting the back end contact for customers, even if they purchase through a shop somewhere or online where it doesn't come directly from you, but you lead them back to you to then nurture that relationship and then be offering them new rods as you develop them. All right, my friend. Hey, thank you. Oh, hey, one last thing. I've got to have you tell people this. I know that you know the difference between a man with a well and a man without a well.
Yes. And the difference is the man with the well didn't stop digging.
You are so right. A lot of people stop short of hitting water, and sometimes they're only 3 feet short. Well, what an inspiration. Thank you so much. Stick around here. We may have more questions come in, but I do need to switch to Phyllis as well to start talking about Phyllis's project, the things that you're doing. So Phyllis, let's start in kind of the same place. Tell us a bit about your family constellation and what opened the door to the things that you have such a heart for doing today.
Thank you. My story starts a little over 12 years ago when I heard these words, Mrs. Jenkins, you are lucky to be alive. My patient in the other room is not going to make it. Those are the words that my pulmonary specialist said. I had a pulmonary embolism, which was blood clots in both of my lungs. And so I left that hospital after a 5-day stay saying, God, you took her, but you left me here. What more is there for me to do? And so for the next 2 years, Dan, I went on a journey looking for my purpose, my God assignment, only to discover that it was inside of me all the time. I have always been a journaler. Back when I was a little girl, we call them diaries. And so I fill diaries up, my stories, my days, my journals. And then I am a natural encourager. So when I put the two together, we discovered the powerful journey, and that's what God has me on, a powerful journey to help other women tell their stories. I truly believe that you can turn your life challenging moments into a life changing message, a message of hope, a message of inspiration, a message of encouragement that can go forth and be a blessing to others on their journey. It also becomes an arsenal in the survival kit of someone else. And so that's how the powerful journey began.
Okay. With the setup that you described, perfect setup for somebody who wants to do ministry. All right. But then the first question is, well, that's fine, you know, as a ministry, but I need to create income. You have so gently done the same thing where you have multiple ways you've taken your heart for serving people well, helping people tell their stories, and yet you've created a real business out of that as well. I can't help but share this right away. I got this just last Friday, telling our stories, your beautiful new book, beautiful picture of you and some of the women, you there in the center, leading the way, an anthology of faith, stories from these ladies. Tell us about that project and we'll kind of go from there.
That project came as a result of, it was actually a God idea. And you see me moving because I have the sun. I'm in Texas and the sun is just shining brightly on us today. But I have women in the Authors Academy who are writing complete books. But then I started having women come to say to me, I want to tell my story, yet I don't feel I have a complete book inside of me. And so the anthology came forth where 15 women in this particular book that you held up are telling their stories in a chapter. And so they have become co-authors in the anthology, an anthology of faith. And so the stories in this book are life-changing. I remember one lady that sent her story to me and she said, Phyllis, my hands are still trembling. She said, I've never shared this story publicly. And that's what happens. Many of these women have kept it inside of them and they've never shared their stories before. But what happens is, as they are sharing their stories, a freedom comes to them. But as they stand at our conferences, the Powerful Journey Women's Conferences, their story goes into the audience. And it's like, Dan, it gives that woman a hug that's sitting out there who thought she was the only person going through that particular situation. And so that's how the Telling Our Stories anthology begun. We have volume 2 that's about to be kicked off in December 20th. And in January, I am kicking off launching, I should say, the EnHERpreneurs Telling Our Stories. And just this weekend, I've gotten several men asking, can they tell their stories? So that's coming in the making as well.
So you're really, now this, you talk about another one coming out next month and another one the month after that. You really are on a rapid pace. This is brand new. And you shared with us that you sold 1,000 copies of this. Not only did but you sold 1,000 copies in a very short period of time.
We did. In 16 days, we have sold 1,001 copies on Amazon. And we actually made the new release, #1 new release list on one day. So we were super excited about that. But more than that, Dan, I'm excited because the women, to see them and to see them reading their stories and having it in a book, the tears that are flowing from their faces because they are getting their stories out there and they know that their stories are changing lives. We have gotten testimonial after testimonial of how their story has connected with another woman.
Oh my. So the things you're doing now, I've got a list here. So I've got a cheat sheet, but you've mentioned multiple things that you're doing to connect women, bring them together. The Authors Academy, describe that a little more fully.
Yes, the Authors Academy is a 9-month course. I actually have 2 going right now where we're meeting via Zoom because I have a woman who is in Paris, France, who is in the class. I have women all over. And so we meet once a month and we are helping them to write their stories to publish a book. In between the meetings, the monthly meetings, I do accountability sessions with them where I'm making sure that they're on target to complete their books. And we also have our weekly wins in a Facebook group where we are cheering each other on. So it becomes like a sisterhood with these ladies.
So it's a 9-month program and you've got 2 groups going on.
Correct.
Now so there's a lot of people out there who want to write books, who, have a story to tell, as you know, better than I, but how much the process, are you showing them how to get editors, how to do the layout, how to get it ISBN, how to get it on Amazon? Are you going through all the components of actually getting a book published?
Actually, Dan, I have a team that does that. I have, once the manuscript is completed, then I have a team member who does the editing. I have a professional editor. I have someone who does the formatting. And then I have another team member who does the uploading. So, and then an illustrator who does the covers for the books.
Wow. Okay. My goodness. So you've got Authors Academy. And then when you put the stories together like this in the book like this, I mean, tell us about the economics of that. You got the stories, you put them together, you're selling it. What does this sell for?
Right now, it is still selling for $7.99, which is 50% off of the regular price. And that's how we were able to sell 1,001, because people are purchasing them for Christmas gifts. And we even had a businessman to purchase 90 books to give away to his clients.
Oh.
And so we launched it with the $7.99, which is still going on right now. Amazon ran out of stock. So I decided to go on and keep it at the $7.99. I will say that a portion of the profit of the book goes toward scholarships. I do 2 scholarships a year. One is to a single mom of a special needs child, and the other is to a graduating high school senior. And so the funds from the book also helps to fund the scholarships.
Wow, beautiful. Then you have the Speakers Academy.
Yes, the Speakers Academy, I have ladies from the anthology right now who are waiting to step into the Speakers Academy, because now they have a book, but they need the courage, the clarity, and the tools to be able to stand before a crowd and tell their stories. And so we cover it all. We have I have one of my team members and I that teach the Speakers Academy. And you mentioned multiple areas for the ladies to share their stories. We have an annual 2-day Powerful Journey Women's Conference. And that particular weekend it features all of the speakers and all of the authors. And so it's their weekend to shine.
Now, I've seen video of that. And when you talk about your Powerful Journey Women's Conference, how many years have you been doing that?
I started the conference in 2011. I actually started it back in my hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana, and it has grown from there. It was a 1-day conference, and now it is a 2-day conference. It is virtual and in person.
Okay, so you're at 10 years, this next year coming up, When will that be in 2022?
April 29th and 30th. And let me just say this, God has expanded our territory in that. The hotel that we have been having it at, we've grown out of that. So we are having the April 29th and 30th at the Collins College Conference Center, and it holds from 500 to 900 people. And so we are super excited. We have people flying in for the conference. We're getting host hotels. And so it's a big thing.
Oh my, that's awesome. Now, what do people pay for the conference? And of course, we'll give them a link where they can go check it out. But what's it paid? And do all they have to do is just pay, or do they have to already be connected with you in some way?
Well, no. And what I started out doing, each of the speakers or the authors, when they sign a contract with me, they're signing a contract that they will sell a minimum of 10 tickets. And so that has helped as well to get the revenue that we need, and also people in the seats. But I have one lady who's already told me that she has 40 people who are coming in for that weekend for the conference for this year. I don't have this year's price yet because I'm still waiting to settle the contract at the college. I will say last year it was $65 for virtual, I believe. But again, I will give my website today, and as soon as I sign the contract and we get our budget, we will know the exact price of the tickets for this 2-day conference.
Okay, so you have the Speakers Academy, the Authors Academy. You're putting together these anthologies of women's stories. You have your annual conference. You're doing private coaching. So those are all ways that you are engaging with people, primarily women, it appears, to tell their stories, get it out there. But this is something where you expect this to more than just cover expenses. You expect this to be an income stream, and significantly for you.
It already has become an income stream for me. I am doing this full time now, and God is blowing my mind. I was a school librarian. He has already surpassed this year of what I was making as a school librarian. And so he showed me that if I just became obedient to him calling me into his assignment full time, that he would do the rest. And he has definitely done that.
Okay. Now we've got people asking here, and a logical question is, how are you letting people know? Are you still in Shreveport?
No. I'm in Plano, Texas.
In Plano, Texas.
Correct. I'm in Plano, Texas. I have a social media manager who helps to get it out, but my main way is word of mouth. These women are telling others about the powerful journey. And then at the conferences, I always open up the next set of classes. And so, Dan, I have a line of women waiting to register at that conference for the next set of classes. So it has served well.
Wow. You're making me drool, because we used to do a lot of live events, and they were, just as you described, they were the feeders for everything else. So we do a 2-day coaching conference. They were the feeders for Coaching Mastery. And with COVID and all, not doing events for a couple of years, we've really missed that level of connection. A conference is a wonderful way to hug people around the neck and connect with them in ways that you just can't do online.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. Now, to do what you've done, requires more than just kind of a passing idea. How would you describe yourself, the characteristics that you have that have made you successful in this way?
I am a lifelong learner. I'm one who's teachable, coachable, always looking, and let me back up. First of all, listening to God's voice. because this was his idea. This powerful journey was planted by him. And so I just said, God, you asked me to step out on this, then I need you to make it successful. But that's indeed what has happened. And so always looking for ways, not only to learn, but to give, to be able to give to others. There are many women that have come to me who wanted to tell their stories, Dan, and could not afford the tuition. And I don't let that stop them. I believe that that God has blessed me because of that. And so, yes.
Okay. All right. Talk about your family, support in your family.
Oh my goodness.
Not only the freedom, but the encouragement and support to do this.
My husband, Dave Jenkins, who is also a 48 Days Eagle family member. Dave is my number one cheerleader, my number one supporter. We've been married for 43 years. He's my college sweetheart. He introduces me as the Kool-Aid in his sugar in his Kool-Aid. And he is a big supporter of everything that I do. We have 2 daughters and I have 3 grandchildren who are also supporters, but I also have a core team that God has sent to me that have caught on to the vision that he's given to me. And so these women actually volunteer their time. And we had a meeting last night, a core team meeting, planning for the upcoming conference. And although they volunteer their time, I do give an honorarium to them.
Okay. That's when there's something that is doing good in the world, something that is an expression of your passion, and it attracts other people. People want to be part of something that has a purpose, that has a clear sense of doing something, doing good in the world. I love that. It's always,
it does.
Yeah. We're very fortunate in the Eagles community to have so many volunteers, people who lead the Eagles Nest, our deans in different areas, all those things. Those are volunteers who just love what we're doing and want to be a part of it. Great example for that. All right. What would you tell to somebody then who is just getting started, not only with just a story to tell, but somebody who has an idea? They think God has birthed in them an idea for something they could do. What are those first steps to give you kind of the confidence to keep moving?
Get out of your own way. And I speak from experience. I printed this so you could see exactly what I'm saying. Don't let your eyes get in the way of God's vision for what he has called you to do. I did that. I had 2 more years before I would retire from being an educator. And I came up with all these reasons. I this, I that, I. And God brought me home, not the way I wanted to come home, but he brought me home and he showed me that I allowed my eyes to get in the way of his vision for what he had called me to do. So get out of your own way is what I would tell anybody who is listening today. And then also surround yourself with those who will catch on to your vision. Everybody, and you cannot tell everybody what God has called you to do. Be very careful with that. And don't ask permission from anyone else to do what God has called you to do. And so again, surround yourself with those who catch the vision that God has given to you. The team that I have, Dan, these are women who have actually gone through the program. And so they know what how to share it with others. And they know my heart.
Okay. And that's what you shared there is so important. Right here at the end of the year, we're all aware of setting goals for the next year. And we know that there is a boost in accountability when we share a goal with somebody, but that isn't just random. You choose carefully people with whom you share your goals, those who are on the same path of success and excellence as you. If somebody's not winning, they're not going to be an encourager. They're going to be intimidated and point out the reasons you can't do what you say you're going to do.
Exactly. They will talk you out of what God has called you to do if you let them.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an absolute delight. Estevan, thank you so much. Phyllis, thank you for sharing the application of what you're doing. The products you're producing are so different, and yet there's so much similarity in the heart that you both have for being involved in ministry, showing people a better way, leading them well, and using the things that are natural areas of interest for yourself and just expanding those, which is a beautiful way to start then what can be a business. So thank you so much for being on here and sharing. We'll continue.
Dan, I have a gift for the 48 Days
Oh, I'm
family.
sorry. Yes.
I have a gift, and it is a blueprint for your story, your significant story. If you will go to, and I believe that Sheila's putting the link in, if you'll go to tellingourstories.info, and you can grab the blueprint, that will help you to begin telling, even if not your personal story, your entrepreneurial story.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, tellingyourstories.info. You can
Yes.
get that free blueprint. Wow. And we put up earlier the link to Estevan, it's Rocky Mountain Tenkara, which I love that term, that idea that it's heaven sent. You're going to trick the fish into thinking it's heaven sent instead at the end of a line. Great stories, great stories. I'm so proud of what you guys both have done, what you're continuing to do, the enthusiasm that you continue to share in the Eagles community and spreading the world, really showing people what being an Eagle is all about. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Those of you who are listening, ask questions as you wish in our community and follow the path that Phyllis and Estevan have paved for us here so well today. Bye.
Thank you.